Hi, I'm Jana Henson here for an Arts Passport conversation. Today I'm at the studio at 620 with the Sara Nower and Jenna Jane from the cast of Julius Caesar. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. So let's lay it all out. You two are starring in a brand new adaptation of a very old story, Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. And what's really cool and unique about this production is that it's an all-female cast. So I want to ask you guys, what is the artistic reasoning behind such a creative choice, and how might an all-female cast shift our understanding of this pretty old story that we all know?
You want to start? Okay. So we had a discussion the other day about background and characters, and during that, Roxanne Fay, who adapted it and is playing Brutus, had said it was a play she always wanted to do. She's done a lot of Shakespeare, and she always likes playing male characters because she thinks Shakespeare wrote men as people of power, whereas the women weren't so powerful roles. They'd got maybe less interesting roles. And this was a play she'd wanted to do for some time, so she had a conversation with Erica Sutherland, and this happened. Roxanne developed the script, so it's an adaptation. It's runs at about an hour or so, hour and a quarter probably when it's finished. So it's a much more accessible piece than the traditional 2.5 hours or whatever it normally runs at.
Oh, awesome. I also hear that it's set in corporate America, so that kind of adds a layer to this adaptation. Can we talk about, why it's set in corporate America and how that kind of shifts the story?
Yeah, and I mean, specifically, I think putting, these characters in female bodies and putting them in corporate America makes it so much more interesting. As somebody who spent more than a decade working for corporations and with a lot of female bosses and a lot of female coworkers, a lot of female middle managers, I think there's so much to say there with how ambition is viewed differently when it's coming from a woman than when it's coming from, Roman men in a Senate. There's so much that translates, but so much that gets so much more interesting when that's women working for a corporation.
It seems kind of like a perfect fit because you have Brutus and Caesar, who are really these complex characters and kind of anti-heroes at a time, a little bit, or at least Brutus. So, we hear Julius Caesar and we think about this huge epic story with these huge speeches and this drama and the political intrigue, but at the end of the day, it's a human story. So let's talk about the humans that you play. Jenna, you play Lucius, the servant of Brutus. So I want to talk about his role or her role in the story and how you think his perspective in that kind of position of service adds to this adaptation.
Yeah, and so we're reimagining Lucius as kind of a Nepo baby, probably a relative of Brutus who got the job at the company through Brutus, and really is kind of very much a personal assistant to Brutus, learning on the job, not quite an intern, a little higher up than that, but really hasn't necessarily earned their way there. There's a lot of naivete, I think, a lot of just kind of everything's new to Lucius, and they just kind of want to watch and learn. And I think over the course of the play, we really get to see this arc with Lucius where they lose their innocence in a way by seeing these women just tear each other apart for the sake of the corporation. And is that really what it's all for anyway?
I think that's a story that a lot of people can relate to going through the corporate world, whether you're, whether you are a Nepo baby or whether you are an intern or a newbie. There is that kind of disillusionment that can come from how, brutal it can be.
100%. Yeah, and I think brutal is the right word for it. And I think that's why it translates so well to a play like Julius Caesar. I think that a lot of people have had that experience of you grow up being taught that you're supposed to have this dream job, right? And you work so hard to get it. And then when you get there, it turns out it's not quite what you expected. And there are a lot of actually very disheartening and sometimes in the corporate world underhanded things about it. So I think that's going to be a really identifiable character for the audience.
And we're excited to see your take. Sara, I want to turn to you. You play the Julius Caesar, this really big character. So I want to talk about how you're balancing Caesar the legend with like Caesar the person, and what do you hope the audience takes away from your portrayal of Julius Caesar?
So it's interesting. I was thinking in the car drive here that I don't remember learning about Julius Caesar at school, and I think maybe I'd only learned about him through the awareness of the Shakespeare play, even though I didn't see the Shakespeare play till about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. So it's one of those things that we all have heard of Caesar. I was doing some research earlier, and I hadn't quite realized that, you know, Caesar then got turned into the word for Kaiser, the word for Tsar in Russia.
Know that.
So, you know, that name has become synonymous with great leaders. And it's very much the language that Shakespeare gives him is very assertive, very strong, very dominant. It's very much stating, you know, his importance. But then at the same time, there are these sort of odd vulnerabilities, these oddities where he's very superstitious, and you know, there's references to him suffering from epilepsy, so there's an illness there. And so it's trying to find that halfway house down the middle to play him both as this dominant character who other people want to get rid of, but then also maybe has his vulnerabilities. So, you know, he's not necessarily an out-and-out villain.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always love it when villains are complex and villains in their own minds are completely justified and can kind of lay out their reasoning. I think that really adds to the story. I want to zoom out for a sec. So Julius Caesar first performed in 1599, one of the first plays performed at Shakespeare's Globe. And here we are, more than 400 years later, performing it in 2026 at Studio at 620. So why now, and what do we think makes this story so enduring?
I think it's a story of, you know, personalities, conflict, honor, power, and it's just multi-generational, isn't it? It's always been an issue wherever you're, you know, whatever sphere you're in. I mean, obviously in the political world, but also in corporate world, anywhere. You know, we've all experienced those issues that, you know, you get on with some people, you don't get on with other people. And I think what's also interesting, we were talking about this, I think in rehearsal maybe last night, that a lot of it is that the language is important, and you can have somebody who's not necessarily initially in a powerful place, but because of the language they use, that gives out power, and people then follow it, and how you can twist people through the use of language.
Yeah, I mean, I think the struggle for power is timeless, and especially with, you know, the way we're setting it in this corporate setting, I think that we're seeing, you know, corporations in America have always, you know, been this powerful driving force, and I think we're seeing today, even just in these last few years, just how incredibly powerful these corporations have become, the importance that they have in our society, in our lives, whether we're opting in or not. There's this kind of inevitable surrender of the self to the corporation. And yeah, I mean, we live in a corporate hellscape, and I think that makes this retelling of it more relevant now than ever.
Right, we're going from Roman politics to office politics, which I love the parallel, because, you know, often we hold, you know, the Roman Empire up as this sort of model. We model a lot of our society after that. So it's really, really cool that we're, you know, we're seeing it a new way. Have you guys discovered anything new that you didn't expect in rehearsals? You've just started, right?
We've
just
started
2 days ago.
2 days ago, that's so exciting. I'm catching you early.
So we've had a table read and then a more detailed read last night, and a bit of character analysis. But yeah, we probably haven't really made too many discoveries yet.
Yeah, we're really just getting it on our feet tonight for the first time, right after this interview. So I think there'll be some cool discoveries there, just being more physical with it.
But I think what is interesting, we're not necessarily impersonating men, but we're not necessarily portraying ourselves as women in these characters. It's sort of neutral. We're portraying the characters as people. So, but you're hearing the language that would be traditionally given to men being given to women, and it's going to sound very different. So it'll be interesting to see how an audience connects with it.
What do you mean by kind of language traditionally given to men? Is it like the way in which they're speaking, or the words themselves?
I think it's the words themselves with Shakespeare. it is, they've got these big, powerful speeches. It's all about loyalty and honor. Obviously, there's, aggression in it, which wouldn't traditionally be given to female characters in Shakespeare.
Yeah, I think that these male characters are allowed to be aggressive and powerful in ways that women simply, certainly at that time, were not written. And still today, very few women are written that way. And I think, there's this persistent issue, I think even today, of female characters not being written in a powerful way and not being allowed to show aggression. And I think to see, these actors in female bodies who maybe the assumption is that women are peacemaking, community builders, seeing them go through this power struggle, tear each other down and tear each other apart, I think is going to be something that a lot of theater audiences don't regularly get to see, even with more modern shows.
That's super exciting. Is there anything else you want to share about the show, or you want to make sure the audience takes away from this brand new adaptation?
I don't know either.
Can we expect to see you in some amazing corporate power suits coming up this March?
I can only hope so.
I hope so. And it's right in time for the Ides of March. I believe you guys have a performance on March 15th, right?
We will be.
Almost as if it was intentional.
We have on Tuesday, the costume designer gave us a presentation, and he's got some incredible ideas. So we are really excited about what we're going to be wearing.
There's some cool looks, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we cannot wait for the speeches, the characters, the costumes. Thank you so much for talking with me, Sara and Jenna. You can see Julius Caesar at Studio 620 starting March 12th. Thank you guys.
Thank you.